Hi, I'm going to break down Stipe versus DC3 prelims. In the first fight we have Kai Kamaka III versus Tony Kelly. I don't know much about both guys. I've seen Kai Kamaka fight. He's 7-2. He fought at Bellator in December when he had one of the Hawaiian shows. Yeah, he beat Spencer Higa, who's 7-10, so it's not the best of wins for him. But he's on a 5-fight win streak. He looks like a really good prospect. He's only 25, and he's fighting a guy in Tony Kelly, who's 5-1. So these two aren't the most experienced guys you'd see in the UFC, but they had to fill in because there was a fight that got pulled out, so he had to get another fight in. And this is a fight we're getting. He's coming off one win versus Tony Kelly. He beat a guy who's 2-5, so it's really not an impressive win to get you into the UFC at all. He's had a 3-year layoff before that, and he lost to Kevin Aguilar, who's a decent fighter. He has a lot of hype at that time. Hasn't really gone his way in the UFC either. But like I said, he had a 3 years layoff, and then he fought Andy Brossett, who was 2-5. And then he took another long layoff until this fight, so he's took a year and a few months. And he's not the youngest of fighters either. He's only 33 years of age. Really, 5-1, 33 years old. It's not really a normal signing they make. It's more like a panic guy to bring in because he's, like I said, he's old. He's not experienced at all. I think Kai Kamaka will win quite easily because Tony Kelly's just not experienced and he's getting on with age. I think that Kai Kamaka will just be too much for him. Next we have Christopher Dalkaus versus Parker Porter. And again, I don't know much about them. They're heavyweights, they've not got the best of records. Christopher Dalkaus is 8-3. He's the brother of Kyle Dalkaus, and who's a UFC middleweight, and he's ranked number 1 in his region in Pennsylvania. He was meant to fight in the CFFC world title fight, but obviously he got signed to the UFC, so we had to cancel the bout. He's coming off one win, again, not really the biggest win streak. Before that, he's took a year out as well. Before his last win against a 4-4 Danny Helms, he lost to a guy who's 14-5, which is a decent enough record. But again, he shouldn't really be in the UFC as he's just coming off one win and he's against a guy who's 4-4. He's fighting a guy in Parker Porter who's 10-5 from New England, America. He's another guy who shouldn't be in the UFC really. It's a fight that they put on a week's notice. He's 35 years old. He's again not the best of fighters. He's currently on a 2-fight win streak, but against the guys 8-5 and 16-7. 16-7 is an okay record. 8-5 is not the best record. Shouldn't be getting you into the UFC. Before that, he lost to a guy 9 wins, 9 losses, and only 1 draw. And then before that, he beat guys with bad records again. I really don't know who's going to win. I think I'm going to go with Dalkaus because he's just got the better record. Next, we have TJ Brown versus Danny Chavez. TJ Brown's good. He fought on the Dana White Contender Series last year. He won. And then he fought Jordan Griffin in his UFC debut. He was winning that fight until he got caught with a submission and with a guillotine choke. And but like I said, he was doing really well. He's got good grappling, and he was fighting a guy in Jordan Griffin who's got very good grappling himself. So I thought this really was a good performance by him. I don't think we should read too much with that loss. And like he's got a win over Peter Barrett, I think, as well. Yeah, he's got a win over Peter Barrett, who's 8-1 at the time. Obviously lost to Yusuf Zalal last week, but there's no shame in that. The guy's very tough, so it's a good win to have on your record. He's fought some good guys on the regional scene with decent records, but he's lost to Bobby Moffett, which is a good loss. He's a UFC guy, very tough guy. himself. So again, his losses haven't been too bad, apart from a guy called Cody Carrillo, who was 13 and 16 at the time. Shouldn't really be losing to those guys, and that was only 2 years ago. But obviously, he can easily improve. You can improve with every fight camp. He's next fighting Daniel Chavez, who's 10 and 3. He's making his UFC debut. And a lot of people saying that really looks really good, but there's only minimal clips of him. He's coming on a 3-fight win streak. He fought only 2 weeks ago, so he's kept active. And but again, his age worries me again. He's 33 years old. These aren't really signings like the UFC normally do. They normally go for the younger guys, and I just don't like his age. But he's on a 3-fight win streak, so he's got a lot of momentum. Fought last month as well, so. And he seems quite a dangerous fighter. He's coming out 3 straight round 1 wins, all by knockout, head kick, and then he knocked out someone and then TKO. Over good opposition, he's thought he'd be a 6-0 guy, a 6-2 guy, and then in this first fight that's got him into the 3-win streak, he'd be an 8-8 guy, who's not the best, but he's not fought bad guys. He's lost to good fighters as well. Jason Suarez, who's a big guy. He's big in terms of a lot of he's a highly rated guy. He fights for Titan FC. He was on Dana White looking for a fight, but he didn't really impress enough to get into the UFC. But he was 8-0 at the time when he beat Daniel Chavez, so it was a good win. And then he lost to Adi Alic, who's 5-1. So the guys he's losing to and the guys he's competing with aren't bad at all. I think I'm going with Danny Chavez in this fight. I just think he's obviously a very dangerous guy, especially in the first round. And we've seen a lot of these guys who have got nothing to lose, and they've gone in and sprung the surprise on the favourite. We've seen it all year. A lot of underdogs have won, and I think Danny Chavez will get the job done here. Next, we have Felice Herrig versus Virna Jandiroba. Felice Herrig is 14-8. She's a very good veteran. Well, she's a veteran of the sport. She's coming off 2 losses. She hasn't fought since October 6th, 2018, which isn't good. It really isn't good, and we're in August now, so she's almost had 3 years off. She fought on the Khabib McGregor card, and she lost to Michelle Waterson, which is not a bad fighter at all. And then she fought Karolina Kuvakevich, who at the time was good. She was 11-2 at the time. She's kind of lost her way now, but she was on a good streak at the time. And she has wins over Courtney Casey, Alexa Grasso, who's a very good up-and-coming fighter. Has a win of Justin Keith, who's not bad. And Kaylin Curran, who's not the best. She's also got losses to Paige Vincent and Ronda Marco. She's fought very good opposition. And she's fought very notable names, but she's lost to these higher-ranked fighters, and she's lost to Tisha Torres as well, who's very good. So the people she's been in with is very good, and she's fought better opposition than Virna Jandiroba, who is 15-1. She's 32. She's coming off a nice win against Mallory Martin on the Overeem. I might not have been Overeem actually. It was the Jacare Hermanson card, and no, it wasn't. It was the December 12th card. Anyway, and she got a win over Mallory Martin. She's not fought the best of opposition. She's lost to Carla Esparza, who was the first strawweight world champion. She has a win over Janessa Mirandin and Invicta, who got a good record. Misuki Inui, who's actually quite a decent fighter herself as well. She's fighting next week. No, she's actually before the start of her career, she fought some really bad opposition, and then after that, she's fought girls 7-2, girls 8-2, 12-4, 10-1, and then Carla Esparza and then Mallory Martin. So she's fought okay opposition. She's fought good girls. I think she will win. Felice Herrig hasn't been active enough. She's struggled to find fights or whatever she's had a problem with. And I just think Jandiroba's activity will be good enough to get her to win. And like I said, she's fought good opposition. She's a dangerous fighter. I think she'll get the job done. Next we have Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda. A lot of people are thinking that Daniel Pineda will get the upset, win over Herbert Burns, who's a very highly rated featherweight. He's obviously the brother to Gilbert Burns, who's on the verge of fighting Kamaru Usman, hopefully. For him, he was meant to fight, obviously, on July 11th, but he had to pull out because of the coronavirus. So next he has, so hopefully next for him is the world title fight. But on Daniel Pineda, he has 2 wins against Jeremy Kennedy, who's really good, and he has 1 win over Jeremy Kennedy, which is good, and then he has a win over Movlid Khaybulaev, who was 14 and 0 at the time with 1 draw. But the problem was he was on steroids at the time, so now those wins don't count. They're non-contests, and I don't think that. And he beat them both on the same night as well. And then since then, other than that, he's not really fought good opposition or beaten good opposition. He's so that worries me. I don't like the fact that he's a drug cheat. I think those wins are not credible at all because he cheated to win the fight. He shouldn't be needing that. If he's good enough to fight, he shouldn't be needed to take any enhancement drugs. I'm very strict on this, and I don't think he really should be in the UFC because you're just rewarding a cheater. Because this happened last year, October last year, so he's not really took a punishment for doing it. So he's also lost to Georgi Karakian, who's from Bellator, 26-7-1 at the time. Lost to Emmanuel Sanchez, who's a very good fighter. And then his other wins, not really impressive. Lost to Robert Whiteford, lost to Diego Brandao, lost to Mike Brown. He's fought good guys and he's lost to them, so he's not beaten really the top level guys. And like I said, he beat Jeremy Kennedy and Movlid, who are 2 very good prospects, but he cheated to win. So really there's not really any credibility to those wins. He's a veteran though. He's had nearly around about 39 fights I think he's had. He's 26-13, so he's very experienced. But now we're on to Herbert Burns, who's 11-2, currently on a 5 win streak. He's got wins over Nate Landwehr with a beautiful knee he caught him with, and then which KO'd him, and I think he followed up with a couple of punches, but as soon as he landed that knee, Nate Landwehr was out, and that's a very good win. We saw Nate have a really good fight with Darren Elkins, and he won, and Darren Elkins is no slouch at all. He's really good, so good win there. And he beat Evan Dunham, who's past his prime, massively past his prime. He retired and he came back because they needed to get someone to fight Herbert Burns due to the travel restrictions of some fighters. But that's still a very good win to have because Evan Dunham's so experienced. He has a wealth of UFC time and was a very good fighter in his prime. So and he has a win over Derek Minner, who's in the UFC. He's not the best of fighters, but he gave Grant Dawson quite a tough fight. Grant Dawson's really good. He has a win over Louis Gomez, who was a good prospect at the time. He lost to Magomed Idrisov, who's not a bad fighter. He fights like ACA, and he's a big guy over there. He also lost to Movlid, who Daniel Pineda did beat, but like I said, he was on steroids, so no really credibility there. But like I said, he's a good prospect, so there's no shame in losing. But since then, like I said, he's on a 5-fight win streak. I think he'll win. I think his jiu-jitsu is so good. I think he's a really impressive fighter, and I just think he'll do really well against Daniel Pineda. I think that he should have enough tools to beat him. I think he's got one of the best jiu-jitsu in the division, and I just don't think Pineda will be able to deal with it. And I know Pineda's obviously good because his 2 wins from the his last 2 fights have come from submissions, but like I said, that doesn't matter to me. You needed to cheat to win, so I think Herbert Burns will stop him in the first or second round by submission. Lavinia Souza versus Ashley Oda's next. Ashley Oda's a good fighter. Her record is quite deceiving, I think. She's 7-5, but that doesn't really tell the story. I think Ronda Marcos was a fight I thought she won. Oh, she competed really well in it. I did think she won. She lost split decision, so it was very close. And Ronda Marcos is a very good veteran. Has many fights in the UFC. Has many fights overall as well. And she has a wins over Siori Kondo, who she wasn't the favourite in against, I don't think. And she won unanimous decision, and she beat Amanda Cooper by split, which she shouldn't really be doing. She should be kind of winning more convincingly against someone who's 3-4 at the time. She loses to Mackenzie Dern, who's a fantastic jiu-jitsu fighter. She's we saw how quickly she can get the submission in her last fight against Hannah Cyphers, and she loses to Andrea Hill. Andrea Hill should be in the top 5 in the UFC. She beat Claudia Cadeo in my opinion, but she got robbed in that fight. She's a world-class fighter, I think. She's completely turned her career around, so that loss there is not bad. She lost to Justine Keach, who's not a bad fighter. Then she's had quite a few fights in Invicta. She lost to Kate Jackson, but in an exhibition fight, who's not gone to fight in Bellator. She beat Jodie Esquibel, who's a veteran of the sport as well. So she's fought a lot of good opposition, and she lost a split decision to Mackenzie Dern as well, which was a very close fight. I remember actually watching that, and Mackenzie Dern made Mackenzie Dern look quite ordinary early. Obviously, there's a lot of hype going with her in that fight, and she handled it really well. Fight she could have won because it was a split decision. Loss for her. Next, and now we're talking about Lavinia Souza, who's 29. She's coming off a loss in July. Again, it's a big layoff. It's over a year now. But with some fighters, some layoffs is a good thing for them. Maybe they just needed a break from the sport. She lost to Bianca Van Buren, who got found out against Tisha Torres. About the time she's 18, and she's not really a bad fighter. She's young, she'll come back from that loss. She has a win over Sarah Frota, who is quite a scary individual. She's very powerful, but it wasn't a good fight. I don't remember it being a good fight, but she won by split decision. She has a win over Alex Chambers, who was 5-4 at the time. She's a veteran, but she's not the best of wins to have. She has a win over Janessa Mirandin, who was 9-0 at the time. I think she's like 10-4 now. But at that time, she was a good prospect. She was 9-0 for Invicta. She beat Ayaka Hamasaki, who's 14-1, and I think she's 20-3. She's a very, very good fighter. She's with age now, but she's one of the best atomweights in the world. So that's a very good win to have, in my opinion. She could have fought in the UFC, but her age is getting on a bit. But like I said, Ayaka Hamasaki is a really good win for her. But I think her a good win. I rate her a lot. I think she's someone that will always give you a tough fight, and it's obviously it's also the main event of the prelims. And I just think Yoda will just have too much for her. I think. No, I'm going with Yoda. I think she's gonna nick it. I think it's gonna be a decision. Souza's got good wins, like I said, but I think Yoda's fought that extra tough opposition. She wins by unanimous split decision. I think she'll win by split decision. Now, onto the main card, we have Jim Miller versus Vink Pichel. I like this fight a lot. Jim Miller's a very classy veteran, really good fighter, a legend of the sport. With or without a title, he's never been a champion, and I don't think he'll ever be back in that area. He's a bit old, he's like 36 now. But yeah, he's coming off a fantastic win over Roosevelt Roberts, who was coming into that fight with loads of hype. He looked great against Brock Weaver. He was not really the best of fighters, but he's a very talented guy. He beat someone he beat Alexander Yakovlev in Russia before that. So Roberts was on a 2-fight win streak. He was doing really well, and then he fought Jim Miller, and Jim Miller just completely dominated him. He took him to the ground, and he just won quite easily in that fight. And he won by armbar. And I thought Roosevelt would have been a bit better on the ground there and compete with Jim Miller, but he couldn't do, and Jim Miller just completely defied the odds, and he won pretty easily. So before that, he lost to Scott Holtzman, which was a close fight. It wasn't the best of fights, to be honest, and Scott Holtzman now is coming off a brutal loss to Beneil Dariush in the first round, which is no shame in. Dariush is a very good fighter. He's a top 14 guy. He might even be ranked higher now, maybe closing on the top 10, but I'm not too sure if he is or not. I don't think he is. I think he's still like 13, 14 ranked. It could be 12. Before that, Jim Miller beat Clay Guida, who again, he's a legend of the sport, but he's past his prime like Jim Miller is. And he has a win over Jason Gonzalez before the Scott Holtzman fight. But he's also lost to Charles Oliveira, but he's a world-class fighter. He's coming off a great win over Kevin Lee, so no shame in that. Has losses to Dan Hooker, again, who was very close to getting a world title fight if he was to beat Dustin Poirier. That was a fantastic fight of the year. Very high level, top 5 guy. Francisco Trinaldo, who's a very good fighter himself as well. He keeps on going, even at 41. He's coming off a great win against Jai Herbert.